Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Lifestyle with Dr. Mobi. I'm Dr. Mobi, and today we are so fortunate that we have Dr. Sharon Mack, and she's plastic surgeon. And let's welcome Sharon. How are you?
Dr. Moby, thank you so much for having me on. I think what you're doing is wonderful. I think we, as Americans, we don't get enough wellness. And so anything that you're doing to promote wellness and the shows that you're doing, thank you. And thank you again for having me on this show. I appreciate it. This is really dear to my heart. So,
Yes, and same to me too. And that is such an important concept that a lot of people don't realize that actually the worst industry here is food industry, which actually uses anything to promote their products, and the poor people keep on spending and spending, and they don't realize that is so toxic that they're buying toxins from their own money, and that is very sad. So anyone who is interested in talking about wellness, promoting wellness, I always try to seek them and get them and promote them, because that's what I my passion is, my philosophy is. So let's try to help everybody to understand about wellness. So give me some of your highlights about your program, please.
well, not even so much about my program. Let's talk about like wellness in general.
Yeah.
We mentioned not spending a lot of money. So much of the diet industry is a lot of like supplements. And if you just stuck with basic food, if you stuck with basic self-care, like you mentioned, you do sleep.
Mhm.
Sleep is probably one of the most important things we can do as
Mhm.
far as diet goes. And people don't, I don't think most people think that way.
Yeah.
But if you don't sleep enough, like at least 7 hours a night, if you're around 5, 6, what happens is that your cortisol levels go up, you're stressing your body. So what happens the following day when you're trying to be productive? You're tired, you have no energy, you need energy. So what do? You're going to like feed on sugar, you're going to feed on refined grains, you can have multiple cups of coffee with lots of sugar in it, lots of milk which has sugar in it. So it's these basic things that we just need to be aware of. I think the first step is awareness as far as wellness goes.
Yeah.
Do self-care.
Mhm. And self education, and even basic concept. I'm usually so surprised when we are talking to patients, and we think that they know, but they don't know even simple basic things, like really down to basics. So even they would not know what is pancreas. They would not. I mean, some would, but some would have no idea what does it do, what is insulin, what is, how the body absorbs fat or carbs. Basic, very basic concepts about carb, protein. So that's my mission, that the book, even I have, like I told, really come up with really school type language to kind of tone it down, all the way down, and say, this is what is happening to your body, this is where we want to make a change.
Yeah, very true. You know that we mentioned supplements before. So much of the diet industry, they rely on supplements. It's expensive. They have additives in it that are probably not good for our bodies. It changes our gut bacteria, and we need our good, healthy gut bacteria to help fight inflammation. And
Mhm.
again, it comes down to the foods that we eat. Fiber is a prebiotic. It helps fertilize the gut bacteria. Some of the foods that we eat can be probiotics too, which help our gut bacteria. So these are all things that we can do. And I know that Dr. Moby is working on this too.
Mhm.
I have this in my wellness program. We cover this, but it's essential. It's really brings it down to you don't need any special food deliveries. It's just eating whole food and taking care of ourselves and adding that self-care and certainly mindset. Because Dr. Moby and I were talking before I came on. I think we all know what to do for the most part. We know that we shouldn't be eating sugar. Most of us know that by now. We shouldn't be eating a lot of refined grains like white bread and cookies and crackers, but we go to them because we're hungry. So we know what to do, but there's definitely a component of mindset too that I focus in on. Dr. Moby does too. It's important.
No, so tell me a few tips which they can help to negate that situation about carb craving. Let's.
Okay, so why does carb craving happen? I always go back to the why. It's probably happening because we're not getting enough sleep. We don't have enough energy. And
Mhm.
it's a cycle. We can go into the pancreas. And the bottom line is when you're eating carbs, your body gets used to it. So it's not so much like a drug, but our body gets used to it and it feeds off of the sugar. Just like if you were having 10 cups of coffee a day. If your body was used to 10 cups of coffee a day, it's what you're going to require. So you slowly have to start eliminating the sugar and the refined grains. And that's one of the ways that it's probably the most healthiest thing that you could do for yourself, and replace refined grains with whole grains. And you would know that by looking at the food label. You want to make sure that you're getting like at least 6 grams of fiber in a serving. Like if you're
Mhm.
looking at breads, if it says refined or enriched, those are types of ingredients on the food label, on the ingredient list, that you want to avoid. So look for higher fiber in your foods.
Mhm.
And you could still have cookies, you could still have breads. Like we encourage bread. Whole grains are really important for us. But you just want to make sure that the foods that you're choosing, that they're not refined grains, and you know that by looking at the food label. And then as far as like rather than having white rice as a side, you could do farro. There's so many grains that are packaged up and they're inexpensive too. Beans themselves are high in fiber, they have protein in them, they help us feel full, and you're not relying on food like every 2 or 3 hours. See, when we eat, we snack, we have refined grains, they're absorbed very quickly into our body, our insulin spikes, and then before you know it, our blood sugar comes down rather rapidly, and we're hungry again 2 or 3 hours later. So if we choose to eat protein throughout the day, like with each of our meals, that too can also help us feel full. And a little bit of fat, healthy fats like avocado, omega-3s that come in salmon. These are all ways that we can nourish our body, we can feel full. They're not bland foods. We can certainly they taste really good depending on how you cook them. And it's
Mhm.
just a different type of eating rather than relying on packaged foods to get us through the day.
Mhm. And that is a very, very important concept about those, nutrition, the glucose, blood glucose level spiking, and glycemic index. For audience to know that. So the glycemic index will how quickly your sugar will go up, and those fiber will delay that. And I tell everyone, our body is made for more natural stuff. It's not made for artificial stuff. So if the food has very high glycemic index, it's gonna really put like your body in shock, or in 15 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever. Your sugar goes from this to 500, whatever, 300, 400. Your body can't respond to that because, it's like, what? So, and the other thing is I tell is to make sure don't eat too much at one time. Even you ate bad food, but if you ate small, very small portion, you can still handle. But if you ate a big mega food, and then it doesn't matter it's fiber, protein, or fat, is gonna be horrible for body, because all the circulation will be diverted to stomach area, and then body has to absorb that. I mean, there are only ways to produce juices and get this food absorbed into juice form and then reabsorbed, right? And goes to liver. There's nothing else to do for the body, right? So I mean, body has to respond some way. So I said, well, be gentle to your body, just be kind to your stomach, you know, make it simpler, gentler, small portions. You can eat multiple times a day. Actually, it's better to do that than big heavy meal and then you are done for like killing yourself. So I said, no, don't do that because same stands for sleep is so important. We touched a little bit about that. So sleep is more about discipline, and then also sleep hygiene. We maintain that and try to go out. During day, actually, it's very important to make sure your circadian. And now, especially with COVID, we are indoors. So it's bad thing is that we don't get the positive vibe and positive energy which environment gives. Blue sky. It resets our brain every day, to melatonin and all those good things. They don't happen if we are indoors or we have very strong light at inappropriate time, right? So those are, and now there's more and more evidence with melatonin. They're saying it actually can help your fight infection against COVID and other viruses. But it would not happen if you are messing it up, right? The melatonin curve is wrong. and you're not sleeping enough. So this gonna really cause a lot of viral infection. Actually, we know that from indirect, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Layering off the computer, the phones at nighttime. You really want to try to get to bed at 10 o'clock. I think that's when you can go through this as well. But with the melatonin secretion, it starts to secrete around 10. So if you can get to bed at 10, it's better than staying up till 1 or 2, even
Mhm.
midnight. You just don't get enough secretion. It has to do with our biological clocks. So
Yeah,
there's only going to be a certain amount of time that it's secreted. So make the most of it.
and that is true. So melatonin is so light sensitive. So if you kind of put your computer or bright lights at night, it's gonna not be
I would
secreted.
sit by the window.
Oh, I love it. Look at
I
that.
know. I love it too. It's really important for me, really.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
find it. I enjoy it. So
And
I work.
and and people have seen there is seasonal affective disorder. If you don't get good light, especially when if you're indoors, you will develop mood disorders too. So it affects many ways, and every day people don't realize, but every day with sleep, our body needs to reset. Our body drifts by 15-20 minutes forward every day, brain, but it has to be aligned back to environment every day. And if we don't do that, it's going to be a wild clock, going forward, but it can do that. The only way it kind of circadian rhythm realigns is if you go out actually and look at the blue light. The blue, actually, there's a reason the sky is blue. There's a reason for it, right? And then look at the birds and animals. They're not on medications. They are perfect. You try to feed them in the evening or night. They don't want to eat too much. They would not
Right.
even eat at all. So, but we humans, we supposed to be the most smartest organism on this planet, and we have this weird way of messing up our own health. And let's talk about supplements. So this is a big problem with all of us, that if you look at the numbers, the money anybody spends, that is far more than all combined medication we practice. I practice, you practice, and uh, this is far more than what we do. And then people spend a lot of money on multivitamins, and this is so toxic. I tell them, and I'm glad you put that in your also
Yeah.
highlights.
There are some supplements that I agree on, though. Like I'm up in New York, you're in Washington, D.C. If we're not outside enough, especially during the winter months, we may be vitamin D deficient. So that may be a supplement, but you don't have
Yeah.
to spend a lot of money on that. You really don't. But that may be something worth looking into. If you're vegan, you know that you should be taking a vitamin B12 supplement if you're doing mostly vegetables, because if you're not doing red meat or any type of meat. So that's something else to consider.
Mm.
And omega-3, if you're not doing personally, as far as I know, there's no good studies showing that any supplement is better than food. You're always better eating the food. But if you don't like fish, if you're not doing nuts and seeds, and you're not getting your omega-3, that may be something to consider as well. But Dr. Mobi could better guide you.
No, I mean, my usually take is get your levels checked. So I said divide vitamins are especially important, fat soluble and water soluble. And the reason is water soluble you'll be deficient within a week, and fat soluble like B12 actually you don't develop that quick. But like you said, those are very important for nerve growth and so forth. Problem is people take too much, so
Yeah.
B12 their level could be 5,000 and they keep on adding. Vitamin D, yes, get it checked. You will see what your levels are, and if it's low, you will actually take a lot of, you might have to take a lot. And certain population like Asians, white people, they could be high risk for osteoporosis and other problems. So those are, and now there was also concern about some COVID problem with, vitamin D deficiency. So, and other issues can happen. Osteoporosis is a big problem, so especially for females too, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so we're gonna. These are important things. We never say don't take what is needed, but be careful. Don't. So I always say the difference between medicine and poison is amount, pretty much. Yeah. Well, so
Right.
medication will become poison if you take it more than what you need or your body can handle. Period.
Right.
Right. So
Even the most benign of vitamins, you take too much, they're poison, like you mentioned.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's gonna damage your liver and kidneys both. So those are very toxic, and but it's important thing is also about. I think you mentioned about going outside. So tell us about your thoughts on how do you incorporate exercise into your daily busy schedule. I know you're a very busy person.
Yeah. If I don't exercise first thing in the morning, it usually doesn't happen. So what I do is usually a combination of self-development, because I think that's really important.
Hmm.
I'll put on a YouTube video, I'll put on a podcast, I'll put on a show, and then I'll exercise. So I'm getting self-development as I'm moving at the same time. So it's usually 30 minutes of exercise. I sit a lot at the computer, which I try not to sit. I actually try to stand up a lot at the computer. So that helps. And I sometimes march in place. Sometimes I'll just break and do like a minute of jumping jacks.
Yeah.
And then later in the day, before we have dinner, we usually go on a walk, my husband and I. It's a great way to reconnect. We get
Hmm.
outside, I try to get that vitamin D in. And throughout the day, I will take 5-minute breaks here and there to make, especially if it's a sunny day or even if it's not, as long as it's not raining, to get outside and get that vitamin D because we know that it helps with immune. We also know that it helps with seasonal affective disorder. We talked, like we touched upon. So that's how I get exercise in throughout the day. Even if I'm at a desk, stand, you can march in place. It just don't be sedentary sitting like I am right now for long periods of time. And unfortunately, corporate America, this is how it is, right? We're in either cubicle or we're in those open desks now. A lot of us are sitting. It's just not good.
Okay. So I'm so feel so blessed that I met you and we are getting this education about your program. Especially also with a lot of medical providers. Um, I think its problem is with the system a little bit. How medicine is practiced. It is more about giving medications and doing surgeries, but I wish it was other way around that we could talk and get patients, about wellness, and then focus on curing your problems, not prolonging, being a long-term customer on medication, right?
Right, they'll put a Band-Aid approach on it, try to work on prevention. But I think a lot of medicine, a lot of doctors are going that way. That's why there's a big push for integrative medicine lately. I think that things are changing. It's just taking a while. Probably the pharmaceuticals don't want us to change, right? Because then we're not buying their medications as much.
Mhm, mm. Yeah, and that is true. Look at, I mean, I was diabetic type 2, and now I'm not, and how much money I've saved to myself, and, or I'm sure drug companies will not be happy at all. So, same when I am practicing sleep, I tell them, look, if you lose weight, this sleep apnea can go away completely. Okay, this is not you were born with that. I mean, there are few can, but for most of us we can really improve and eliminate that, and and then they are excited, they say, oh really, I can get rid of it. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, you should really do that. Same diabetes, type 2 diabetes is you know proportion has really gone up, with people weighing 400 pound, 300 pound, 200, whatever. It is massive. And so if we don't do anything, it will be disaster for as a our state of medicine, as well as, uh, not to mention your, our own health, you know.
Absolutely.
So
Saturated fat is something else we could speak about maybe on another time, but all the meats, there's a big lobby for meat industry as well, and that's something you probably want to eliminate. We hear about red meat, right, as far as cancer risks, colorectal cancer, but
mhm.
even chicken has saturated fat in it. So
And then also depends on, and basically all meats. And I'm really surprised when they have these veggie burgers, or they call so-called veggie meat, or
beyond
the
meat, something.
Yeah, the meat, and they created, and I said, do you know the calories on that thing? It's 500, 300, or whatever. And if you're gonna eat that, what good is gonna do to our body? What difference is between, yes, there is a little more toxicity with eating animal fats versus yes, there's a difference little, but those are small differences. Big difference is always, or what main thing is always, if you feed your body more than body can handle, everything becomes toxic. Those fine things are only matter when you are more fix the basics, right? So if you are, let's say, if you are really obese, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna take those small things and worry about them. Yes, it will probably make you burst a little more than, but the basic concept is always, if you're eating more than what your body can handle or your body can process, you're at wrong side, period. The directorial direction is wrong, right?
Absolutely. Such a great talk. Thank you, Dr. Moby, for doing this for your followers and my followers. I appreciate it.
Okay, no, it means a lot. And I always, I'm so fascinated when we have a healthcare provider like yourself, who is well-known surgeon, and still he is practicing a lot emphasis on wellness. I mean, I'm so happy today that we are on right path here. So tell us also about any success with your patients, if you want to share any of their success tips.
I think a lot of this all just comes down to mindset. Like I mentioned, they feel better about themselves. That's why I personally work on self development and why I push my clients and patients to work on self development. It starts there. It starts from within. If you don't feel good within, if you're not taking care of yourself from within,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter. Like nutrition is hugely important, but a lot of that has to do with how we feel about ourselves. If we're not feeling good about ourselves when we're out to eat crap, and it's okay to have small sweets, right? Like that shouldn't be eliminated altogether. But it's portion control, right? There's no reason to eat half a cake or, it's or more portion than you need to. So
Mhm.
portion control, feeling good about yourself. And yeah, I've had, my patients are happy with the program. And it's accountability as well, right? There's studies to show that you can do a placebo, you can do different changes in people's diet, nutrition. There's accountability. They know that in a few weeks they're going to get on that scale again. So
Mhm.
a lot of this has to do with accountability as well. So make sure you're in a program that has accountability and that you feel comfortable with. It really has to be what you feel comfortable with, what you relate to.
Mhm. And that is very important. Actually, I also felt that was a core of my success is accountability, and basically checking every week, because every week I would show up to my dietitian, and I would tell that I would not follow your diet on powder, but I would do natural kind of control, portion control, and eating less food and carb. But I'll show up every week. You can weigh me every week, and we're gonna lose half a pound every week. And she was very fascinated with the whole idea that it can be done. First of all, because they do keto diet, and they would give powders $500 of it. So I said I would not buy it. I'm sorry, but I would just do it. I will show you how it can be done. So the whole year I showed up every week, but the accountability was in my mind that I have to show up and prove myself that I'm gonna lose half a pound. And that to me was, and to see myself that half a pound every week, it was kind of fascinating. So do it slowly. Do it. You are the one accountable for your actions, and the benefit and the loss actually both. So that is very important concept actually. And even a little praise from her was so big. Oh, you lost half a pound. uh, Even her little praise was so much. I can tell you. It's just like 5-10 pounds. It was a big thing. So forget about I never thought I will lose 100 pounds, but it can be done, right? Sure. Without
Absolutely.
medication. without medication. And my friends look for the scar for the surgery and all kind of. They say you lying. You had to have a scar. I said, no, I don't have a scar. I didn't meet any plastic surgeon to get me a scar removed. Sorry. So it was fascinating meeting you, Sharon. Tell me your final thoughts, and then we can say goodbye for our audience.
Just you, my final thoughts is that you need to make yourself a priority. If you're not making yourself a priority, you're going to be an empty cup. And how could you pour from an empty cup? You may be trying to take care of your children, your husband, your spouse, partner. It doesn't matter, but you can't pour from an empty cup. So start with yourself. Start working from within first, and everything else will just follow. Life will be easier.
Okay, great. And we are so fortunate that you came and gave us great talk and shared the thoughts and emphasized on wellness. And that means a lot to my audience, myself, and everyone who's listening. So give us your feedback and also try to check her website and program if you are interested in that. You can tell about your website, Sharon, if you know.
Yeah, it's right here. It's Sharon Mack Wellness. I have a program. We have a Facebook group and we get together. It's accountability. So I hope to see you there. Thank you, guys.
Okay, okay, you take care. Thank you.